on your last day, the leavers go through a charge by Griffin. I charge you, and it says, I charge you never to forget the great things that you've gotten from Starehe. And in times to come, according to your means, do everything you can to enable others to access the same opportunities.
Wow. Transition us now into Starehe.
Yeah.
So what I know from you already from the beginning, you're disciplined, you're hardworking, you are extremely intelligent from a gifting perspective, but also from the discipline that's allowing you, and you understand that education is a key.
Yeah. And also the other thing you are taught is just do the right thing. There was something about doing the right thing is, I talked to you about if you do the wrong thing, there's discipline, and you are disciplined by everyone. So there's something about doing the right thing. And although there were a few issues, I remember there was a big riot in my school when when we were close to finishing, to completing primary school. And because around that time when we were completing primary school is the time that there had been a coup. Ooh. So the big national moments was the coup.
Yes.
Because I remember that was one thing that you could not forget, regardless of your age. And but generally there was the whole aspect about doing the right thing, integrity, and so on and so forth was a big thing. So values at that stage were really the foundational values were set. And also they were reinforced, which I say the education system worked. If you went for service, you'd receive the service, So it was easy, not easy. It was easier to get inspired by this system works.
Had you actually, by the time you're saying Starehe, had you traveled to Nairobi a couple of times?
No. What happened is
you had not been to Nairobi.
No, I had been.
Okay.
Remember, I told you my father used to live in Mombasa. So we had been to Mombasa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
so I had been through Nairobi to Mombasa and so on and so forth. And we had other relatives in Nairobi.
Okay.
So, but we had a headmaster who is now late. He is now late. He was called Mr. Kigima. I still remember him because he was very big. And he just happened to have the name Kigima, which is like a big person who is grown,
yes.
But also is a big guy. He's the one who actually spoke to us about schools, and actually really told me, actually, given your background, etc., Starehe would be a good place to be, and also your level of achievement in school and so on, as your family background and so on and so forth. So that's the way. Of course, I knew about Starehe and Alliance. But that's the way.
A teacher's influence over your life pushed you.
Yes, teacher's influence. And then Starehe, and until today it still happens, you needed to go for an interview. So I came to Nairobi during the year when you are doing your exam. So in August, so you're doing your exams in December, come and do the interview with the late Griffin. He used to do the interviews himself.
Wow.
Yeah.
For every student about to join?
For every student about to join, regardless of the number. So he would see every single student, and he would determine whether that student will join. And then therefore, once he has determined whether you'll join or not, he will now wait for the results of the exam. But he has already made a judgment as to whether you are Starehe material or not.
What? That's so...
So I remember I went to Starehe at that time with one more person who was in my school. But I got through. The person didn't make it. But we went for the interview. I think it was the results. The results were not good enough for him.
In retrospect, what was Griffin looking for? Was he looking for, just me throwing my random thoughts, gifting outside, or not just education, not just a smart child, but a child who was maybe had leadership skills or other skills? What do you think he was looking for in the interview?
Actually, Griffin was very inclusive. because the type of students that came into Starehe came from all kinds of backgrounds.
Okay.
Of course, needy students, but also mixed with non-needy students. Because it's 30% of the school is still up to today fee paying, and for the most part. But in terms of what he was looking for the values that you have more than whether you are gifted in sports and all those things. Those things he kind of thought would be developed. Of course, the background you come from, the way you've been brought up. Results were kind of a ticket to the game. Yes, if you don't hit certain
you don't qualify.
You don't qualify. You're not even in the play. But even to be able to come for interview, the schools had to make sure that they filter for kids who are
needy,
but also bright.
Okay.
Because if you are not going to be able to make the cut on either of the two, then the interview won't help. So he would interrogate how you've been brought up, how your family and all that stuff. But he was very inclusive, because when I joined Starehe, and we'll talk about it, you come across virtually reflects society in the broadest sense possible. Yeah, there isn't something, okay, well, you're only bringing academicians. No, you are bringing people from different backgrounds. They happen to, of course, because there's a filter of education. But
they happen to meet the cut.
Yes.
But it was all different tribes.
Absolutely.
All different classes.
Yes, classes. All different tribes, classes, reflects the face of Kenya and came from everywhere. Yeah.
Okay, so you go to Starehe, a big change that's happening here.
Yeah.
It's boarding.
Yes. So first time.
It's in Nairobi.
First time in Nairobi, as in to live in Nairobi.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I never lived in Nairobi. Yeah. First time actually to live in a city. Yeah. And so this time when we went for the interview, so we kind of say, well, bloody hell, this is a big school. Then you think facilities,
You've come from
that was in the 80s.
Yeah.
So, and I've been to Starehe many times since even in my role. And, some of the infrastructure is dated a bit. But that time, for national schools, Starehe had some of the best facilities. So whether that is the dorms you stayed in and
yes,
the facilities and so on, and you are thinking, come from Gaidethia. And actually Gaidethia was not bad in terms of, because it was constructed,
yeah,
from scratch.
Yes.
So it wasn't, the classes were not bad, but very basic. Here
there's levels to this.
A national school that is quite different even from normal national schools.
Yes.
And has a purpose in terms of giving education to boys in need, which was the.
Were you on scholarship?
Yes.
Wow.
I was on scholarship.
So you were considered one of the students in need.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm getting to understand why education touches your heart.
Yeah.
It changed your life.
Absolutely. So, the thing is, the reason why the interview was important, in talking to the child, Griffin would know what family background you come from. He would know whether you have any luxury at home. I'm sure he would have observed that we basically very, very basic, the way we grew up. But anyway, the coming to Starehe, boarding, and Nairobi. And of course, you take a matatu and so on and so forth, because my parents never owned a car. And then you show up, and I still remember when you get into the gate, and actually, then you gather. Starehe had almost a British way of organizing how things worked. So when meals would be taken in the evening, the kind of the assembly.
Are there different races at this time when you've joined? Or it's Africans, just Africans?
There were races, yeah, there were different races. There were Asians in the school. There were a couple of whites.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Remember, the school was run by Griffin from the beginning and set up. And that's why I said he was very inclusive. So yes, there were different races. And certainly, of course, he would prioritize mostly Kenyan kids. But whether you are Asian or African didn't matter, to be honest.
I just wanted to
we
understand.
We had a lot of Asians, actually. We had quite a few Asians at the time. And but the school was very diverse.
Yeah.
It wasn't reserved for a particular whatever. But in terms of the transition, it's a major transition coming from Shags into this school, going into boarding. In a way, the boarding, why it wasn't a shock, is because you are used to being independent because you are supporting. So you are not dependent on your parents in a way. So you can actually survive on your own. So in a way, that allowed us to feel comfortable in a boarding environment compared to like the typical kids we brought up, which is they are so dependent on the parent. They are dropped to school and all these things. You kind of do your own thing. I can't. When I was in primary school, I don't think my mom's checked my homework once. Maybe other people.
Not your mom.
Not my mom. So it means you're so independent, and therefore you are not. They'll ask you how you are doing. By the way, that they will ask you. So everyone wanted you to do well. How you are doing well? It's your own. You're on your own, basically.
It means you're more disciplined than even independent.
Yes.
Because you can have a lot of people have independence, but they lack the discipline and they lose out. You sounded like as much as you have the independence, you also have the discipline. So Starehe. Show me, because this school sounds like it shaped your life.
Yeah. So Starehe was, I would say, the second kind of shaper. So the early upbringing was very, very useful and very helpful, and actually had a foundational effect, because this whole village is a meritocratic system. The thing works. It's very unfiltered, but even if it's basic, it's still very inspiring in the sense of you don't feel vulnerable. You feel vulnerable financially, but you don't feel vulnerable emotionally, isn't it? But there is no safety net. You get? There's not much luxury here. Then you go to Starehe and you kind of say it's the extreme of there's a purpose, the school has a philosophy. It was started by 3 founders. That's why they have the Founders Day. Griffin, Dr. G.W. Griffin, Ikubu, and Gituru. So it was G.W. Griffin, Gikubu, and Gituru, all late. So they started it in 1969, and the reason why Griffin started Starehe is he worked in the military during the colonial time. He got disenfranchised because of the way the Africans were being treated. And then he left and started being a support for kids the kids of Mau.
Wow.
So there were kids who were going through difficult times because their parents.
Your parents are in the Mau.
Yeah, and also they're either Mau or they're in the concentration camps.
Oh,
you get what I mean? Either but it's not necessarily in the forest. Those guys who have been imprisoned because these kids who basically. So then he decided, okay, why don't I start an institution that would target broadly the society, reflecting the society, but prioritizing the needy, and give them an education, both academics, but also well beyond academics, so that it allows them to be good citizens of the country. In fact, we used to, when you are finishing your high school, there was something we were calling a charge. So on your last day, the leavers go through a charge by Griffin. I charge you, and it says, I charge you never to forget the great things that you've gotten from Starehe. And in times to come, according to your means, do everything you can to enable others to access the same opportunities.
Wow.
Yes. And everyone actually who went through Starehe remembers. And basically the charge reflected the philosophy of the school, which is you bring kids, primarily needy, you take out, when by the time they come out, they are confident, yeah, they are looking forward to being leaders in society. They think well beyond the academics, and they think about their community. Yeah.
So what is being taught to you to make you think like this? You see, when you say they're confident, that's not the education that is making you confident.
No.
So what is it that you're being, what are all these other you know, that charge is so powerful.
Yeah.
What you have learned here, take it. So what is that you're learning?
Okay. So academics and learning was a given, because that time, at least the time I went,
yes,
Starehe was also doing very well. Yeah. So be number one to number, all we intended to deal with was how do we beat alliance? You know, that kind of, so we were in, so that type of, so generally.
So again, in this era, you're always number 1 or 2 or 3.
No. So in Starehe, everyone who came there was number 1.
Oh.
So there isn't, no, now you are equal among equals. So this is what bidii yako itakuokoa type environment. But you are inspired by the fact that you have all these kids who are very bright, but who have come for the same reason, to a school that is one of the leading and a very unique one. And from the way it is run, because the school was run by students, from the captain to the school captain to the house captains to all the prefects and others, and I was a prefect and so on. But it was run by students. Yes, it was run by G.W. Griffin. He used to run the NYS in the morning and the Starehe in the afternoon. So, but the way
he ran NYS.
Yes, he's the one who.
So you guys were military run as well.
In fact, they used to call it every school has a nickname. Do you know the nickname of Starehe?
No.
Coldies, like a prison. No, the thing is, the reason why that came through, it's not because it was a problem. It was the discipline that was in the school. But actually, it is although we talk about discipline in Starehe, there was a lot of freedom. So the Griffin, the way he used to think, he used to say to Starehe, you should express yourself, and nothing should hold you back. So we used to have something called Baraza every Friday.
Okay.
Throughout his life at Starehe, every Friday he would hold something called Baraza, which is a meeting, just a Baraza, and ask students to ask him anything. And you are allowed to challenge, ask anything as long as you are respectful. So you learn, you can actually access authority and ask for anything, So that's one. So Baraza really introduced that thing of challenging status quo, challenging what you're hearing, challenging, pushing the boundaries. So so intellectually, but also society-wise. So you don't feel there's a hierarchy I can't challenge. And I still remember one time there's someone who said Griffin. He said, because you are disrespectful, you should have called me Mr. Griffin. You are not going to be able to ask the question.
Wow.
So those things you remember. So that's one. The second is the philosophy of the school in terms of the things they would ask you to do. So because of this, the background the kids came from, so there were things that were taught and were mandatory, like swimming. So some of us, of course, grew up in a place where you are not swimming. You didn't have swimming pools and all that stuff, yeah? Unless there's a river, in which case you'll be lucky.
And it's cold.
And it's cold, and it's very cold. So So there's mandatory swimming in Form 1 until you pass. So you go for swimming on Sunday afternoon until you pass a test, yeah, a proper test. So that's the time when now you are excused. You can now you don't need to attend the mandatory swimming. So there were certain skills, and they used to say these are life skills that we are teaching you, and also because he understood the backgrounds that the kids came from.
Yep.
Yeah. So swimming. Then during the week, the school was run with a structure. So after you finish school, there was an assembly in the evening, say like around 4:30. Between 4:30 and 5:30. During that time, there would be stuff that maybe this week is Catholic Action, that is having talks. Next week it may be something else, maybe whoever else. And so we would listen to all these people. So throughout the year, there will be something you are listening from week to week. Yeah. So you are learning much more than what you are taught in class.
Yes.
Then after the assembly, then you'd gather up in a quadrangle, around the quadrangle, everyone based on the houses you come from, or the houses, like I was in a house called Shell House, and then they would bring the flag down, and it would be done by someone from the band, from the school band. So one of the symbols of Starehe is the school band. And then you'd go to the dining. So first of all you do review within your houses, and then you'd go to the dining, and it was all run by students.
Okay.
So very little interference and actually involvement of teachers in terms of how the school ran. Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of how the school ran. So as a result of that, you observe just leadership from the very beginning in terms of how a system works. And then you are taught to be, in the stuff that happened, the way you are monolized. In Starehe, there was nothing like that. In your first 12 weeks, which is your term, the first 6 weeks of the 12, if you're a new Form 1,
yeah,
you don't do anything in the house. Everyone cleans the house. So you actually are, you're told this is your, it was called grace period. This is your grace period. You actually do nothing. So you watch the rest of whatever happens, you learn from them. Then from that time, you start doing the stuff, cleaning and so on and so forth. But basically, the whole thing was set up to teach you life skills like swimming, discipline like how you clean your clothes and all these things, leadership, how things work, stuff outside. And then Starehe had a lot of stuff like musicals. So you watch all these things that are typical UK, US schools would be exposed to. And as a result of that, you actually opened your mind massively in terms of what you could do. Of course, sports. There was a lot of sports that we used to have inter-house competitions.
Are you still running?
Yeah, I'm running. I'm still running, and especially although now I came across guys from
Rift Valley.
Rift Valley.
Keep chalking.
Keep
chalking.
Yes, exactly. Regardless of whether the fact that I came from high altitude, but you now come across. But actually, the guy who used to win during our time was not actually from Rift Valley. It was from a guy from my house, from Kiambu. The marathon. I'm talking about the marathon. And my house actually was very famous. It was called the Mighty Shell, because it used to have, and you'd have points both on the sports side. So they would accumulate points on the sports side and the academic side, and then they would add all the points, and then they rank the houses. So our house was called Mighty Shell during the time I used to be there. Nothing to do with me, but partly. But we won that award of being one of the best houses, and actually that created a lot of competition, a lot of inter-house competition and so on. And it's still there. We still have now a WhatsApp group of, depending on which house you came from.
Alumni.
Yes, which year you actually left the school, as part of supporting the school. So like I'm in the WhatsApp for Shell and also WhatsApp for the 87, 88 a lot because I completed the second last A levels, and of course so it's completed 88. So it's 86, 88. So all the learnings, so both in terms of how you behave, and also the one other thing I should say is that, we have Starehe has the red and blue uniform.
Yeah.
That thing stands. I was actually incidentally, out of pure coincidence, last week I was the guest of honor at the 20th anniversary of Starehe Girls. Yes.
First of all, you were in Starehe Boys.
Yes, I was in Starehe.
There's no mix.
Yes. So no, it wasn't. But also, Griffin wanted to start a school that would be exactly the same as the boys' school for girls. It was started by pure coincidence in 2005, which is the year he passed away.
Wow.
So at least you saw his dream. He was one of the founding trustees. So
he was still alive when it was opened?
Yes, it was still alive.
Okay.
So he was still alive. So the reason I was talking about the uniform is when I was the Starehe Girls over the weekend, I talked about the uniform. The uniform, although it stood out like a sore thumb. Another schools used to make fun of it. Depending on which school, I used to tell them they make fun of it, but we are beating you in everything kind of thing. So how does it matter? We were allowed to go out over the weekend as long as you're in uniform.
Wow.
Yeah. So we used to go to Komba and all those places, Pomwani and so on. And so no one would approach you because first of all, you are in school uniform. Second, it was a very respected uniform because of how well the school used to do. And those are also the days that we used to have Patrick Shaw. Do you remember that? Have you ever heard of Patrick Shaw? Patrick Shaw was an assistant director in Starehe for administration, but his part-time job was a reservist within the security agencies as a senior superintendent of police.
Yeah.
And he was a British guy, and he was one of those guys who was feared by any criminal in Nairobi. So one of the things that people used to know is that you don't either mess up with Starehe or Starehe students.
Yes.
So anyway, but the uniform was a real big symbol of independence but discipline. So you're in uniform, so you can go out. But you are disciplined enough not to do the wrong thing. So effectively, you learn it isn't a big thing being out there. You get what I mean? Like the way people get excited about whatever. So as we didn't have that problem. So we used to be allowed to go out over the weekend and go out wherever it is you want. You go and visit whoever you want to visit.
Wow.
There was no restriction. So people think Starehe was very, kind of restrictive, but actually it was very disciplined, but freeing. Discipline in the context of what you are required, your value set, rather than behavior not behavior, discipline in terms of value set rather than rules. Yeah, the rules, you set the rules yourself. Like
I get it.
Yeah, and actually the punishment hierarchy was very clear. Students could no one would kick, not one person could kick other than Griffin. Yeah. So, and the reason why he did that is so that he kind of says, by the time you're coming to me, there's a big problem. And very few people anyway used to end up in his office because one stream was one form was like 250 students.
One form.
So it's five classes in one form. Wow. And those are the days where virtually everyone used to qualify to go to university, other than probably a few, like 250. You have a few who don't. But
is that where? Actually, let me ask this question, and then now we transition.
Yeah.
What's the goal? Is it still get into university, or at this time I'm like, I want to be, what at this time, what's...
No, this time, but this time, this is a good question you're asking. By this time, because of being in Starehe, there's a lot of career talks. During barazas, during a lot of the assembly pieces, there'll be people who come in and talk to you, say old boys or corporates. You know, we had a lot of sponsors of Starehe, you know, like the Shell. There was those very many corporate sponsors that used to be involved with Starehe. So you got a lot of advice, and certainly even potential employers would come into, you know, they would be invited by Griffin, not necessarily to come and talk about, I want to recruit you, but just about career. So I was very clear that I wanted to go into the finance area or economics, finance type, you know, business.
Yes.
Business was now probably I thought there's probably more money in business.
You wanted to be around the money.
There's probably more money in business. And actually, to be fair, I wasn't sure that the whole stuff like engineering and all those things were my whatever. But certainly, I felt that the business area is general enough, but also admired. I mean, I kind of, because of all the interactions we had, I thought business was going to be, and I did know, of course, now we have a library and all these things. I did you know, when you speak to old boys and you listen to various conversations. So business was always in my mind.
So
yeah,
it's again. Starehe continues your foundation on values, it continues your foundation on discipline, on hard work, but what it adds is this, it's like an increase, it adds exposure, a lot of exposure.
Yeah, and actually I forgot to say something that towards the end of when I was in A-level, we interviewed with PwC, although I didn't go in, not with a few companies, although I didn't actually go into to work after A-level, but there were people who went to work
after
A-level as part of their pre-university. But you know, as we went to NYS, but there were people who actually went and worked in corporates pre-university.
So okay,
yes, pre-university. But all I was trying to say is that there was a lot of exposure on stuff that you could do.
Okay.
So there wasn't, you know, it wasn't, and you know, we take it for granted just the amount of exposure people have in terms of potentially what they could do, because, and also at that time, the thing about professions could tend to be academic. You know, you get what I mean. So if you ask someone, what do you want? They probably, I mean, at that stage, probably people don't know. But they probably want to go to university. They want to go to whatever it is. But to be fair, in our school, we got a lot more exposure than your typical school in terms of what the options are and what you could do.
Okay. We're going to take a 2-minute break to change some batteries, so you can also sip some of your water.
Yes.
When we come back, we're in university. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll be back in a second.